Are you ready?
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Andres Salazar, writer of comics, film, all that kind of fun stuff. Today we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to do a quick little, very basic look at breaking story. Sometimes we hear about that term breaking story. Basically, it just means breaking down in chunks, in themes and plot, the story. A lot of times that term is used in film and TV, in like say a writer's room in TV, where a group of people get around a couple whiteboards and they break the story. So today I'm gonna break the story for Boaz issue number 1, which you can go check out on my Patreon. So a little plug for you, go look at my Patreon. A lot of it is free, a lot of free content, and there's some stuff for $1. You get all of my comics. So that's the plug for Patreon. Let's talk about breaking story. So thank you again for watching. So what we're gonna do is, there's a couple ways to do this. And this is kind of my third iteration of doing it. You can always use postcards, little like index cards. And these are kind of nice because you can break these up into your story or scene elements. And you can kind of post these into Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. You can also use these as character moments. So just like this character, what's his motivation, what's he doing? I decided not to use this today and just go with whiteboard. And so, very basic, very familiar 3-act structure, okay? If you're doing TV, it's gonna be a before 5-act depending on the network and how that works. But for the sake of just general like screenwriting and comics, things like that, it's three acts basically structure. So what I'm doing in the red is the plot, okay? So red is plot. This is what's going on. So we have my main characters. The first thing that opens up the scene is this crash, okay? They're crashed in the desert. The characters, this is like a sci-fi Dune meets Lone Wolf and Cub. Let's just pitch it as that, okay? So they crash in the desert. The issue is, the big dilemma that they have to overcome is, we got to get out of here. We got to go to this location they're trying to hit. So that's the big dilemma. There's also a timer involved in this. So there's a timetable, and that is that there's someone chasing them. So they're being hunted. They're the prey. So we've got a timer. So we got to get there by tomorrow, or whatever the element is, right? To kind of move it forward, make the motivation, make all that kind of happen. We have our 3 characters. Now, what I decided to do is in blue is kind of more of the motivation, interpersonal thing. So we've got our plot with our characters. They arrive in the town. We get an introduction to the town. What's the dynamic that's happening there? They're breaking off into their little submissions or little activities, right? So these would be different separate scenes. Maybe this would be one to 3 pages each. One of the conceits of this, or constraints rather, is this is all going to be done in 24 pages, okay? I think comics now are 20 pages, or 22 pages, something like that. I'm going to do 24 because I'm going old school, and I feel like it. So, and this happens to happen in 24 pages. So this scene is, 1 to 3 pages. This is 1 to 3 pages. You do this later. After you break this down, then you'll kind of like break into your scripts when you work on your beat sheet. After the beat sheet, you then kind of break down pages, page, and then you break down the actual composition, which I can show you here. This. Then you can go into actual pages, and you can go into, okay, now we've got the pages. Here's them at here's the group in front of the little town. So this is actually like page composition, thumbnails for each of those, okay? So that's later on. So we break out Act 1. There's a turn to Act 2, which is what's happened. So we set everything up. 2 is what's going on. So there's the dilemma. Now, it turns out that these 2 characters are going to be conflicting ends, right? This character, Gala, is actually hired to kill somebody, and this character is hired to protect somebody. And guess what? They're at odds. So bum, 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 what do we do? Now we're gonna have to try to resolve that, okay? again, I'm using blue now to talk about relationships and kind of like the interpersonal issue, the motivation, not the plot necessarily. So, for instance, Kai's motivation is really to find his mother's killer and this relationship with the grandfather that he just met. And so I put a relationship here, which means that this scene here that I'm going to do in the beginning of Act 2 is really going to have some of that theme and tone of, we're talking about the plot, but we're really also talking about the relationship we have, right? So that's like something to kind of embed in the dialogue and in the scene. So same thing here, when Kai goes off on his own to talk to his mother in the spiritual world, there's that kind of element of, you know, showing his internal dilemma. So everyone has their own like little mini objective or motivations, and we're going to try to like see those throughout the story. That's critical. We have the trap. This is like, now we're getting like, again, plot heavy. The trap, the excitement. We cut to a couple scenes. Now we're kind of like adding the pieces together, right? We're adding the puzzle. And then at the end of Act 2 is boom, boom. Now we've got a big problem. Now, in scripts, a lot of times, the end of Act 2 is called the moment of darkest despair, or something similar, like the deep, dark despair, the pit of despair, where the character basically is at the end of his freaking rope. This is the rock bottom moment, and now Act 3 is, I gotta get out of this, okay? So, basically that's what's happening right now. At the end of this, we have the attack from the person that was chasing them. So we kind of seed it in the very beginning. There's the timer, right? That they're being hunted. Well, now, almost towards the end of the comic, boom, we bring that back, and as a surprise. And we're like, oh, I forgot all about that, right? Oh, but we put it back here, if they remember. So, boom, now we have the kind of biff, bam, bomb, fight, you know, conflict that we like in comics, and I like to be action, so this is an action story. We're going to have that battle, and then now we start resolving some of the emotional things with the town and with them interpersonally. So now we have, there were some deaths, we have to deal with the deaths, and now they get their objective met. They get a like land speeder to move forward out of this desert, but there's a cost to it, and it's not what they hoped for. And so there's a little bit of that like comeuppance. And you get what you want, but not quite the way you wanted it. So we add that a little bit here, and then there's a little cliffhanger. Elok, one of these characters, whose goal was to escape this whole group, he does escape. And so there's that little bit of cliffhanger of, okay, what's now at next issue? Well, we got to go find Elok, and we got to get him, because he has the key to understanding the mystery of why the mom died. That's the whole thing. Go to the Patreon. So basically, this is kind of a way to brainstorm, kind of like just get things out there and just visually look at the story at all. Now I can go back and I'll refine and I'll kind of translate this into a beat sheet on the computer, which is basically just a set of scenes and beats. And that is like, okay, these are the beats, and we're going to hit all these moments in here. And then from the beat sheet, I'll then go into script, and as I showed you before, the thumbnail like sketches. So that's really quick, kind of like how I break story, okay? I do this for doing it, if I'm doing like a spec script or a radio play or whatever, I bust it out in this way. You can do it on paper, you know, I've got a number of little papers and jots, things that I've down, and kind of like, you can do it, you can bucket it, you can do it visually with different circles. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But the point is you need that time to kind of brainstorm, think about, this is very plot heavy, this little like story, but think about the plot and also the relationships and those kind of internal motivators in the characters and where that dilemma is. Another little tip, each scene should have some sort of mini dilemma, a mini conflict. Each scene where there's a character, there needs to be some little conflict there. If everyone's hunky-dory, then it's not fun, it's not drama, and we don't want it. We need conflict in every scene. And so we got to find little moments and little things where they're conflicting, because that brings out the most exciting part of characters. And that is Breaking Story. Thanks for watching my quick video. Check out all my other videos. Subscribe. I not only talk about writing comics, but drawing comics, my favorite comics, and also all kinds of film and other little fun things. So thanks a lot for watching, and take care.